Hello, my peeps, and welcome back to Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. I'm your host, Ike, and before I make too many more sounds, I'd like to just take a moment and say thanks for being here and giving this pod a listen. It means a lot to me that you chose to use your precious time and give me and my guest your ears. Now, if after all this awesomeness you still have the wherewithal, it'd be really cool if you share this with someone who you think would like it, or just subscribe yourself if you already haven't. That'd be dope. And if you want to tell me what parts of the show you were passionate about, peeved you, or just say hi, you can always reach me at Twitter at like Ikes or via email at passionandpeevespodcast@gmail.com. So, just got done watching the League of Legends finals with my brother and friends. And honestly, watching that is definitely better than watching any game of Magic, I would imagine, for somebody who doesn't play the game of Magic the Gathering, as there was so much that you could just kind of tell intrinsically was going on. You know, character dies, that's good. Character wins a point, that's good. And the way they were able to convey it with passion and fervor. I've played one game lifetime, did not enjoy it, wasn't for me, but watching it, I get it, and it's something I can totally do and enjoy now. Also got to be there with my brother when one of the best players in the world won. It was like, it's pretty dope. So very much in like a kind of inverse watching, sports when you're a kid with your dad. Very much was watching this new e-sport with my younger brother. It's really dope. So if I sound a little weird, that is because I just got 2 crowns put in and my mouth is not about it. In fact, I probably need to talk to the dentist and ask them what numbing agent they're using when they do procedures because my mouth doesn't seem to like it. Having residual pain and uncomfortableness in that area for the second time. First, when I got, my crowns measured and my temporary crowns put on, and now again having the same problem. So something's up. Don't want to change dentists. I like their proximity to like my work, which is, when I go there, I just leave work a little early and go to the dentist's office. It's very nice. They're great people. However, this is not really sustainable. It's very painful, very uncomfortable, and a little bit off-putting. Speaking of things that are off-putting, but in a different direction. So early, for those of you that are long-time listeners and good rememberers, uh, early in this regional qualifier season in Magic the Gathering, I qualified instantly, and since then I've had friends who have went and played these qualifiers and have been near missing. And it's very interesting. When I play, I want to win, but when I lose, it doesn't really bother me that much. Like when I don't win the tournament, but when a friend gets close and then misses, I really want them to win more than I want to win. It's very peculiar. I feel like it's been different in the past. I don't know if I've been just fortunate recently and so haven't really had to think about me doing well because I've just done well, and so I presume that I will do well, and I worry that they won't do well because sometimes in the past they haven't done well or what it is. But it's very interesting. Had friend and guest of the podcast Aaron Barrich, 1 win away from qualifying to go to the same tournament I'm going to in Denver, and came up short, and I was very vexed. And when I lose tournaments in those positions, I'm annoyed, but I definitely have lost in those positions plenty, and it never ever really gets me down for super duper long, but definitely was just truly dismayed. So, Aaron, I'm sorry. I hope you do better. Oh. In the interim, while I am getting over my friends not doing or having good things not happen to my friends as I would want it to, is probably the technical way to say it. I'm on vacation for this week, as I hope many of you are, at least for part of the week, as this is, the week of Thanksgiving, and there's much thanks to give. I've got my health, I've got a family that loves me, and I've got this awesome podcast, which thank you for listening to and making my dreams a reality. It truly has been amazing, and is going to be amazing. I don't know why this sound of finality. Um, but as well as that, I'm using the hell out of this time to play a lot of Magic for the upcoming regional championship in Atlanta. That's coming up in a little less than a month. Any which way, I do declare that is enough about me. Who's on this week? Who could it be? This week, speaking of local magic thingamajiggery-doos, this week is Vincent B. Bi. Sorry, Vincent, I forgot how you say your last name. I believe it's B. Um, and he is someone who I met playing Magic, and is just being his lovely self. So, anyway, take it away, past me. All right, folks. Today on the pod, he once held a pun workshop. He's won an award for bringing Saddam Hussein to life, and also won a silver medal for giving a speech about how people don't change. Folks, please put your hands together for Vincent B.
Woohoo! Hi there. Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Perhaps in such fun and illustrious times, you have a favorite fun fact you could dote us with?
A favorite fun fact about myself.
It doesn't have
You
to be
mentioned
about yourself. You can just be about anything.
fun fact, orange the fruit came first, not the
Yes.
color.
Isn't that true for like a lot of the colors though? Like didn't a lot of colors kind of get like see object go this is blank?
Probably. I'm
Yeah,
not an
obviously
etymologist,
that one
but
is like that one is the color that is also the fruit and like where it is like most prominent, but
yeah,
I wonder if they called like purple like grape before or something like that.
that would be hilarious.
I mean, that makes sense, right? There's only like how many things are grape out in the world? Like it's like just flowers and the fruit, right? There's not that much like natural purple in the world, generally speaking.
Shiny rocks.
Get out of here with that intelligence and nonsense. I won't have it.
Thanks for having me today.
You're welcome. Don't let the door hit you with a good Lord split you. If you were to ever take part in a WWF styled event, what would you want your walkout song to be?
I want something fun and really reflects my carefree spirit, so I'm gonna go with the hamster dance.
What would do you know what your like persona or name would be? Have you put much thought into this?
Not really. I'm not generally a very aggressive or violent person, but
But I know
I'm
what
assuming
I'd
you have
want.
to be those things if you're part of the WWE, right? I haven't seen it a lot.
To be fair, I have watched like collectively Lifetime. I think I've watched like under 6 hours, so I really don't know. I think 6 hours is also putting away high. I think I'm like probably under 4.
Well, that's 4 more hours than me.
Yay, I'm winning. While we're on a musical note, what's your favorite drive time jam?
Ooh. So, many friends of mine know this about me that I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan, and um, one of my favorite things that I discovered, my brother shared this with me over the summer, was this 13-minute long like mega mix of 230 plus of her songs just mashed together. You only get a little bit of clips here and there, but I've really enjoyed hearing snippets of some of my favorite Taylor Swift songs all jammed together in 13 minutes.
Is
So
it just like chopped up, like with no particular rhyme or reason, or is it like mixed where it's just like this
it's
kind of ultra?
brilliantly and fantastically mixed.
Oh, nice.
It's by a guy named Jacob Joseph or Joseph. I don't want to say Joseph Smith. That sounds like a Mormon guy, but
Yeah.
I'll need a double check. But it's one of my favorite things to listen to. I'll listen to that on repeat.
This is the greatest Taylor Swift matchup ever. I believe it's Joseph James.
That's it. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
230 songs. Holy shit, that's a catalog. What's your last or most memorable dream?
Oh my gosh. So a couple weeks ago, I think it may have been last week, I had a dream where I was yelling at my students. It was my period one class, and I was um honestly, I don't remember exactly what I was yelling at them for,
But they
and
deserved it.
I don't usually yell at them, but then I woke up and I was like, what did they do? What did they get on my nerves for? And so the next day or that morning, I showed up to my class and I shared with my students, hey, I had a dream this morning about how I was yelling at you guys, and I don't even know what you did, but I was angry. And I'm hoping today is not going to be a realization of that dream. Turns out it wasn't. And
Yay! How did they respond to you forthcoming with such a very curious circumstance?
I came about it from a like Mr. B's telling a joke kind of angle. And so for them, um, they were like, oh, let's make sure we don't get Mr. B to yell at us. So they were a little better that day. I appreciated them.
So you should just start every day with a bad dream that you had involving your students, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Speaking of your occupation, do you have a favorite industry secret or term that's only used in your line of work?
Ooh. So one of the phrases that come to mind when I think about uh, like the secrets of teaching is something many teachers might recognize as SEL, or social emotional learning, and that's recognizing that students um, are social emotional beings and they have social emotional needs. And there's going to be days when they come into your classroom in a fit because some friend drama, or they're they experienced loss in their family, or they're really hyped up on their favorite football team winning the night before.
Mm-hmm.
And just being able to recognize when they're experiencing those social and emotional highs and lows, and meeting them where they're at. Because at the end of the day, they're not really going to care to learn anything from me until they know that I care about them as a person and care about their interests.
That's really cool. So, if I may break it down to parlance where I and hopefully the audience can understand, it's basically meeting them where they're at.
Yeah, that's pretty much what that means, meeting them where they're at on any given day.
Did that just hurt your English brain? As I know you teach English, and I ended it with a slightly incorrect preposition.
I mean, otherwise, it would just be meeting them
Well,
at which they are.
no, but I
That's
mean,
not right.
shouldn't
At
it
where
technically?
they
Yeah,
are.
like
Mhm.
I think grammatically it's supposed to be like meeting them where they are, right? Not where
Yeah,
they're at. Yeah.
yeah. That's I, I'm at a point in my English teaching career that as long as you are able to communicate the message of what you're saying to me, I don't need to correct your grammar. I've already had too many people come up to me, giving me the stink eye about me correcting their who's and whom's and lessers and fewers.
All right, so I'm down for that when they're using like the wrong version of the correct or correct-ish word. I totally get you, although it can be annoying and triggering to some. If my father's listening to this, I know that's you. Uh, but what about when they use a word that is incorrect, but you know what they're saying from context clues? How do you feel about that? Like for instance, I had is either a student or a coworker at the charter school, which I tutor at, come in the other day and say, "Oh yeah," and then I was out there wearing a really cool baklava. What they meant to say was balaclava. However, I knew what word they were trying to say just by context because of the fact that they were wearing it.
That's so funny.
It was fucking hilarious.
I am
I
picturing them wearing some
just covered in
traditional,
baklava.
Delicious baklava.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tasty wear, to be sure.
I've definitely had to train myself to not immediately correct the other person, and give some grace, give some forgiveness. Okay, if I know what they're saying, let me just check, is this context okay? Have I earned enough friendship points with this person that I can redeem some of those to correct their their malapropism?
So it sounds like basically it's almost like a for you thing rather than a for them at that point, where you're just like, all right, I've built up enough, I can cash in these points and just like alleviate this this bubbling up inside of me.
Well, especially
you're relieving like English, or dang it, I had it in my head. You're effectively relieving like a grammatical like acid reflux. Like sort of, right? You're just like, they just say the wrong word, you're like, you just check and like see how much like social currency you have.
This is especially true if I have been with this person for a while and they are consistently using a word or phrase incorrectly. Then I'll be like, "Hey, I think you actually mean this."
Do you have one that is like a biggest either ire raiser or one that you find coming out the most frequently that just drives you crazy?
So as an avid Magic player, I like to make sure I get the card names correct. And
Okay.
so if a friend or even a teammate mentions a card name incorrectly, then I'll be very quick, reflexive to correct that person. And oftentimes it's like, wait, Vincent, that's maybe not the right time, but oh, yep, there it is.
When around nerds, got a nerd. Well, speaking of something that can ruffle some feathers in a public space, what's your favorite hot take?
Ooh. So I'm gonna steal this one from one of the good people at Loading Ready Run. We mentioned this on a recent episode of Tap Tap and See, but I was like, oh, I think that's a good hot take. Uh, the unhealthy white bread is the best bread. Don't
Yeah.
give me any of those multi-grain flax and sunflower seed, wheat, whatever stuff. Nah, give me that nice white fluffy bread that sticks to the roof of your mouth.
Oh yeah. I want to meet the person that actually doesn't think that's like correct. There's all the like nut eaters that I love, all the rabbits out there who are just like, oh, you got to eat healthy, you don't want to have too much whey, and like that kind of like, and they speak with that timbre. No shade, you're gonna outlive me by 80 years. It's fine. Enjoy visiting my gravestone. It's all good. But all the ones I know, at least are willing to admit when push comes to shove, yeah, the white bread tastes fucking amazing. Like they're not like being like this one's better. Like all the ones I know, I appreciate that either they know this and preach it, and or just are willing to relinquish the point when conversating with me. The white bread's better. It's just very unhealthy. It's full of fat and sugar. It's delicious.
That's what makes it so good.
But like they value living to the year 1000, and Godspeed. But yeah, it's anybody that truly believes the opposite of that is just foolish. That I feel like I'll allow that. It's a good conversation point. I don't feel like that should even say. I don't think that should be considered a hot take. I think that's just true. But by the way, if you want the best, or in my experience thus far, one of the best ones I've ever found for like that kind of bread is either, I think Costco has one that is a it's like a white bread that's like crossbred with, pun intended, a croissant, and that one's tremendous. And then there's one at Trader Joe's that's like uh it's like a knotted brioche loaf, and each piece is individually separated by like a piece of like plastic, like you would see around like a chocolate in like a confectionery store. They're each their own
Oh,
thing, and they are so deliciously, like you can just eat them on their own as like dessert. They're so, like they're not sweet, but it's just like oh my gosh.
brioche is definitely really good. I think my favorite kind of bread, I'm very basic for enjoying this, but King's Hawaiian
Oh no,
sweet rolls, those are just,
banger.
you know,
King's Hawaiian is like for top shelf bread, it's like Reese's. Like anybody that when you're like, oh, my favorite like candy is Reese's, like, oh, you don't like Lint? It's like, have you had a Reese's? Reese's are busted. It's the two best things you can have at the same time. No one should ever give you shade for liking King's Hawaiian. It's just like, it's just correct. It might be like basic seeming because you can find it everywhere, but you can find it everywhere because everybody likes it because it's busted.
I'm a man of simple tastes. I like King's Hawaiian rolls. I like Taylor Swift. I like caramel macchiatos,
And
pizza.
these are all things that are popular because they're amazing. Like I'm gonna take a moment and like pontificate here. The idea of somebody being basic for liking what other people like is just such a foolhardy, snobby douche notion. If you do that in your life, fuck yourself. You're an asshole. Let people enjoy what they like. You enjoy what they like. Snicker when they're not around, but to say that to their face, oh, that person, you're so basic. It's like, just because they like something, like it doesn't. They're only basic because other people have found out, and the reason other people found out is because it's good. I'm sorry you don't like it. You know, go back to listening to the Doors, listening to it backwards while you eat your nut bread. Have fun in your cave, your troglodyte.
Perhaps, perhaps a hotter take is that if something is an acquired taste, it is inherently bad. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I enjoy coffee, but I will admit, coffee inherently tastes bad. Beer, I'm sorry, that tastes bad. That is inherently bad. You can go enjoy your bread flavored soda elsewhere, but it is no.
Bread flavored soda might be the best. Yeah, I remember getting shit for that. And I think some of it is like, I think the acquired taste that I'm willing to relinquish on, I agree with you wholeheartedly, by the way. The, oh, you haven't watched it enough times to get it. You haven't drank it enough times to enjoy it. Fuck you. I'm not watching a show 3 times to enjoy it. I'm not drinking 4 6 packs so I can finally tolerate your shitty beer. Go enjoy, as you said, your bread flavored soda somewhere else. Kick rocks. I don't care. I do think there is one small thing to say that it's like a time in your life kind of thing. Like I'm finally starting to enjoy mustard, kind of, in my 30s. I stand by. I think mustard is crap, by and large. But I don't think that's like acquired taste thing. I think that's just an age thing. Same kind of with beer and stuff like that. But I remember having that same kind of conversation with somebody ages ago. I was like early 20s, and I'm like drinking Mike's Hard Lemonades and like, like apple teenies and like very sweet drinks because I have a sweet tooth that I'm sure is going to put me in an early grave. And they're over here drinking like a Sam Adams or an IPA and just being like, "Oh, you're blah 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 drink, blah 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 blah." Like, I just like it. Like, I don't give a fuck that you're drinking what you're drinking. Why are you giving me a hard time for what I'm drinking? Enjoy your beer flavored soda, dickhead. Speaking of going back in time, what's the silliest thing you believed as a child that you now look back on and giggle?
So this is less of a childhood like belief or myth that I had growing up, but for some reason, the way that I was raised, um, my parents taught me to always put a small towel over my pillow. Um,
Okay.
and there's a practical sense to it. Um, Usually, I would go to bed right after I took a shower, hair
Oh,
still
okay.
wet. But it was also a good way to catch, sweat and drool and things like that. But
What are you,
I've
a
got to
dog?
a point.
Sweat and drool.
I'm a snorer. I breathe out of. I'm a mouth breather.
Uh,
Self proclaiming mouth breather. But yeah, so now anytime I like go to a hotel, I have to make sure I lay a towel over my pillow. Not even just from the practical sense, but a texture thing. I've gotten
yeah,
too
yeah, you're so
acquainted
used
to
to it. Yeah.
the rough likeness of a towel that like a smooth um pillowcase doesn't do it for me anymore.
Oh,
It's
dude,
odd.
I'm the same in a different way. I love that. Like that's the thing. That's such a great like little stiglet. I love that. So I sleep with. I got gifted this Totoro pillow like I don't know, probably a decade ago, and it's round. It's it. I think it's supposed to be a decoration pillow. Honestly, it's one of those ones that looks like the most tightly wrapped kind of like wow, a sleeping bag. Jesus, I like almost like a rug. It like level of thin. It's like tightly packed. It's kind of like I don't know. Looking at it now, it's probably got the diameter of like 5 inches or something like that, and it's just round all the way down. There's very few other pillows like that, and so when I go on like trips and go to a hotel, I am in such a state because I can't traveling with that pillow is going to be a pain in the ass, and also if it gets lost, I'm turbo fucked. So I just leave it at home in its safety of my bed, guards or whatever. And so, but when I'm out like staying in a hotel, I have the hardest time going to bed because I now have a normal pillow where I'm used to sleeping on this like decoration pillow. So I absolutely feel you. It's such a funny predicament.
It's a round pillow.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know, man. I'm more of a rectangle kind of guy. I
yeah.
roll
You and the
around a
rest of the
lot,
world,
so
leave me alone. I'm unique. Well, on the opposite end of the spectrum, what decision in your life are you the most proud of making?
about 2 years ago, um, as the pandemic was starting to lift, I started attending a local game store in my area. I was invited by one of the managers there. He's the bookkeeper, but he invited me because he actually used to be my pastor at my church. He's no longer there. As he no longer serves as a pastor. He's a high school teacher now. But he asked me to just stop by, and as I started to play some of the events and get to know the people there, the store judge actually reached out to me, and we started just chatting, becoming friends. And as she was about to go back to college, she actually asked me if I would be interested in becoming a magic judge and start to run the weekly events and tournaments at the game store. And
Hell
so
yeah.
within 1 month, I completed all the online courses and took the level one exam and found uh, a level two recommendation. And I don't know if I haven't met anyone else who's been fast tracked through the judge program that quickly, but it was about a month for me before I
Damn.
started running Magic events. And I'm going to be honest, my first Magic event that I ever ran was a 24-person mystery booster, which with all those crazy cards, I was honestly, I was um, like hyping myself up. Okay, I know the rules, I know the games, I can do this. And immediately there were people passing packs with like missing cards, or like they're all the numbers are out of order. I'm like, oh, the judge courses did not prepare me for when the pack is missing a card. Oh no. And it was a little daunting to run 3 draft pods for a single night, but um, from that point on, I learned the ropes of running tournaments smoothly. Ever I have since have judged many competitive rules enforcement level events, which I always have a blast doing. Um, I've met a lot of people through the judge program, whether they're fellow judges or other fellow competitive players, and it's definitely one of my proudest accomplishments within the last couple years.
That's awesome. Well, perhaps kind of in the same venue, but maybe different. What's the best or most memorable piece of advice you've ever received?
I mentioned this earlier about when I was talking about students, meeting them where they're at, but it's quite simple. They won't care about what you know until they know that you care. This is true for
Ooh.
teaching, for students, but it's also true about friends and getting to know people. It's very easy to talk about yourself and what you know, how much trivia you have about a certain topic, how much experience you have in a certain field. But at the end of the day, what people are truly looking for is some kind of connection and
Yeah.
a feeling of validity and care on the other side. So if you are, expressing empathy and curiosity in the other person, then they'll be more willing to listen to what you have to share.
That's so freaking awesome. Oh, I love that. That's so dope. All right. Well, while I revel in that, eh, what is your favorite non-musical sound?
I have two that I really enjoy.
You know what? Because of that last tidbit, I'll allow it.
The first one is the uh, clicky clacky sound of like mahjong tiles, or
Oh
like,
yeah,
oh,
like
just the
dominoes. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, just the I don't know what they make those like game pieces out of. Maybe some kind of like ceramic or silicone. I don't know what it is, but just the way
They're
that it
made
clacks
of
together.
bamboo, ivory, and bone.
The original ones for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but that's just a nice sound. And the other one is just the thunk of a tennis ball hitting a tennis racket, or the other way around. Thunk, 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 thunk. I'm like, no, so
Are
funny.
you a enjoyer of the sport, a player, or both?
I have played tennis exactly 3 times, I believe, and each time it was like 20% hitting the ball, 80% running after it.
That sounds pretty above average, honestly, from what I've been told. So kudos. Do you enjoy watching the sport at all, or is it just the sound in and of itself that brings you joy?
Well, my friends would make fun of me because I thought Wimbledon was a sport. We were
Okay.
at a sushi restaurant, and the event was going on, and I was like, "Oh, they're playing Wimbledon," and they all looked at me like, "No, that's the name of the
I mean,
tournament."
if they were actually playing at Wimbledon, like you're grammatically correct. It's just like in a different emphasis, right? Because they are playing, and it is you do play Wimbledon.
That's true. So
Take
I
that,
did not I
nerds.
did not deserve that much flack.
Exactly. What would you say, since you brought up out to eat? That I mean, use that as a transition. What would you say is your favorite meal to make for yourself?
Ooh, I'm simple, but I just enjoy a good spam fried rice. I love spam. I know it's unhealthy, but it just tastes so good. So, yeah, just I like to dice up the spam. Um, I usually use a whole can if I can't, if there's a good ratio or proportion of rice to go with it. But that plus, some garlic, soy sauce, maybe some oyster sauce too. Just the regular frozen like peas and carrots. That's pretty easy too, and some scrambled egg. That's just like throw it all together in a wok. Eat it with a spoon.
All right, well, here's my fun fact of the day. Do you know what spam stands for? It is not stuff posing as meat, like many jokingly presume.
Is it side
Nope.
pork? I was so close. I thought I once knew.
It is neither side nor pork.
Oh, well,
Because it has it is predominantly a pork, if not entirely pork, dish. However, spam stands for specially processed American meat. And
mm,
I don't know why, but the fact that they distinguish American just makes me laugh my ass off every time I freaking read
you
this.
can really taste the freedom in it.
The freedom for living deep into your 90s.
I don't need a liver.
The robots will cure me in the future. What would you say is your biggest everyday temptation?
Everyday temptation.
You're walking around the house, you're a man about town, you're going by the normal, whatever is normal in your life, whether it be, walking from your car past the liquor store, past the McDonald's to work, with, the normal things that you're going to find yourself by that you find yourself resisting the most.
I'd probably say bursting into song. I like to sing, and
No, that's awesome.
if I'm listening to music, if I'm walking out on the street, I want to sing along with my music. And if it's usually Taylor Swift, then it's too high for me, and I want to go falsetto. But I don't want to sing out loud because people will stare at me. Although I have heard that maybe it is a good tactic at night to ward off potential predators or muggers because they're gonna think this
The way you said predators, it
weird
made you
guy.
sound like you thought, like you visualized yourself as like a fawn or something like that, where you needed to like scare off werewolves.
If I will have to belt out a Broadway show tune to make sure that I am less of a uh, potential victim of some kind of muggery, I will do it.
Muggery. Uh, what's your favorite book, comic, or cartoon that you think would either be the best or worst choice for a big screen adaptation?
So my favorite comic book um, of all time that I think is like incredibly timeless, and I'm sure no one would deny this. I would argue is Calvin and Hobbes, um, and I think they um, shot a documentary about the author and his inspiration behind the comic, but I don't feel like a cartoon or a movie using those characters would just do it justice. I feel like they would try to spin like
They try to make more meat than there was initially on the bone.
yeah, like I could see people nowadays wanting to turn that into a cartoon. Like they did that for Diary of a Wimpy Kid or Captain Underpants. And
Yeah.
again, those are, comic books that I grew up reading as well and I loved. And my students today still love those as well. But they've turned them into, animated series that I recognize they're not for me. They're for children. But I can't appreciate them as much as the original form. And
Yeah.
so um, I don't think, I feel like at this point, if there would have been like a Calvin and
Oh,
Hobbes cartoon,
there's never gonna. I was gonna say you're safe. There never can be one. Bill Watterson never sold the rights. That's why all
ah,
the gear that you see being sold with Calvin and Hobbes on it, the visages, unless it's the books, I think those are literally people just like ripping it off. And he just didn't care to ever follow up like the whole like him peeing on the Chevy sign, him peeing on the Ford sign that you used to see on like people's like bumper stickers and whatnot back in like the late '90s,
ah,
early 2000s. Those were people just like making stuff on their own. That I believe that nothing ever was produced. He also like he really didn't like fame. That's why I think if it's the documentary I'm thinking about, I think the only bit you hear of Bill Watterson is not like it's not being him being recorded in person. It's him on a phone conversation for like 10 minutes or something like that. It's
ah.
like he's like, I love making cartoons. Money's kind of nice, but it's not that the end all be all. And I want this character to stay as the way I have him on this page as much as I possibly can control, which is by like not selling the rights. He like was never in every advertising. There's no way they're ever going to make a movie about it as long as he's alive and his family or his continuing family actually doesn't go broke and need the money or something. It's never going to happen.
I think that just makes me admire him that much more
Oh yeah, the
and
guy's
cherish
awesome.
those comic strips even more than I already do.
Yeah. No, that Bill Watterson was one of a kind for sure. What's the proudest accomplishment you have that the fewest people know about?
I would say the proudest accomplishment that I don't really tell anyone is that I've completed several New York Times crossword puzzles on my phone. I know
Yeah.
I feel very good about that.
Yeah, that
Like
shit's hard.
that stuff is. And sure, I do use the check puzzle button and check word button, and sometimes if I don't know an answer, I'll just constantly guess every single letter until it's correct. But I stand true that like I don't look up answers um, on Google or the internet. I do allow uh, I guess some people might call it book googling, like, basically looking it up in a book, like an actual print media, or talking to another person. That those are allowed, or looking at a map too. That
He's got
actually works too.
scruples, folks.
Yeah, so like you gotta stay true to the spirit of solving a crossword puzzle. You're not. It's pointless if you just look up the answers on the internet. You have to like you know. I started doing it when I was a freshman in college. The college newspaper had a like a LA Times crossword puzzle always printed in it, and I was like, oh, why not I just like try this, try to do it, and I started getting my dorm mates involved. Be like, hey, do you know the French word for bread or whatever? And I was like, hey, do you know the capital of Latvia? And like, I'll just like run around and ask people whatever
It's like a
clues,
scavenger hunt.
and it made it fun. And um, it became such a thing. Like I was known for like playing this crossword puzzle that I never really got to finish. I think I only completed one out of the newspaper that they printed each month. But when word got around so much that I became like the crossword guy that when we had a like a freshman Sadie Hawkins dance, um, one of my friends asked me out with like a crossword puzzle book.
Aw,
So that was really cute, and so I was like, of
that's
course,
amazing.
yeah.
What myth is yours the favorite to either dispel or the one that you find yourself most commonly dispelling?
I think the myth that I find myself often dispelling is the one I tell to students that I'm not made of infinite money, as they might think. Teachers do not make a lot of money.
Fact.
They, I, buy them snacks and little fidget toys out of my own wallet oftentimes,
Oh.
and um, just to keep them happy, just to keep them incentivized. Um, but yeah, a couple of my last year students, they came into my classroom this year, at the beginning of this year, and they noticed all the new decorations. I have like extra movie posters from like um this year, whether it's like Barbie movie or um Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I also have a huge collage of musical album covers that I bought off Amazon for like $15. And it took me like a whole hour to glue stick onto the wall. And they came into the classroom and they're like, "What? How come we didn't have these decorations last year?" And I just tell them point blank, because Mr. B was poor last
Yeah.
year. I have more
It
money
is,
this
it is
year.
very fascinating to see the presumption by children. And I'm sure I and maybe even you were that way when we were in like school, where it was like, oh yeah, like you did it for me once, you can do it again. Like this idea of like, I clearly know how the world works. I'm going to say this, outlandish thing to this adult and not realize the context of it. It is so funny watching like, oh, like there's a kid at my school today who was giving a teacher shit for like, the teacher was like, yeah, I'm not taking this. You haven't stapled it, it's not in order, and your name is not written on it. Like, oh, come on, you can do it. It's like, I swear I almost saw the teacher tell the student to go fuck themselves. And they're like, well, no, I have like 40 students. I don't need to do this 40 times for each assignment. You can sit down and do it because that's what you're supposed to do. I was just like, but they didn't mean to be, I don't think they meant to be like audacious, like I'm king and you're a peasant. I think they just like don't understand the concept of like time management for an adult with an occupation and like what that is. Or like the apparently some of the students have, because like it's a charter school, works for very like kind of, I don't say impoverished, but low income and kind of on the rougher side of things youths. They will have the teacher's phone number in case they need to get a hold of them with help for assignment, or if assignment's going to be late or something like that. And they'll
Hmm.
occasionally like reach out and ask like 2 a.m. ask them how to do one problem.
Oh my gosh.
And
I
it's
remember
just
this
because they
moment.
don't understand the concept of, hey, I'm asleep. I have a sleep schedule because I'm not a kid and I can't just like go to bed whenever I want and pop up because I have responsibilities. I have to be at work at a certain time, so on and so forth. I think it's not that they're like, this idea of understanding the like work life balance and just age difference and like the way your body works, like in my teens and early 20s, I could do shit that if I did it once would wreck a month or at least a week if I did it one time. And like I did that on the regular, like when I was growing up. And now it's like, I can't do that one time. Like little and every time.
Yeah, on a similar vein, I think it's funny how you mentioned how students don't really have that concept of like time management um down yet. One of the things that I am constantly encountering is a student will come up to me and be like, "Mr. B, how come you haven't graded this yet?" And I look at the turn-in time and it was like 5 minutes ago. And I'll be like, at what point do you think you completing this late assignment that you should have turned in like 2 weeks ago, from the moment you turn it in to me standing and helping other people, could I have gone to my desk and gone to my rubric and graded your assignment? I
Yeah.
do not understand why you think, oh, the audacity.
Well, I think it's one of those things that the more I spend time around kids, I'm curious to hear your opinion on this because you've been in the teaching sphere longer than I have. I think they don't, and this is going to sound messed up, but I don't think they view us as people as much as we are kiosks of knowledge, or kiosks in which to like almost like an arcade boss to beat, of like a academic sense. that when they turn that in, we're supposed to automatically print out a grade. We are there for their service, basically. They
Not
feel
even one
obligated.
step further than that. It's not really their service. It's most of them are just to appease their parents.
No,
Like
yeah, but what I mean is that like we're not, because they have been accosted to do this thing, that they are in turn owed something. Like we are to service them like they kind of treat us like you shouldn't, but often people do treat like fast food workers. Where it's, hey, I ordered, where's my food? Like there's no slight in that. It's, this is your job. I paid you money. I ordered a burger. It's been a minute. Where's my burger? There's no indignation. There's no like true like you know aggressive audacity to it. It's just kind of confusion. It's like asking a tour guide where's the bathroom. You're just like, hey, where's this thing? I have paid for the service. I would like the whole service. Where's my burger? Where's the bathroom? Where are my grades?
I
There's nothing
suppose it's
villainous or like but intentionally rude about it. It's just like I would like this thing now, please. I have done my work. I have paid my entry token. I would like my grade now.
I suppose it is a kind of ignorant entitlement. I
Yeah,
suppose some people would call it innocence of children.
yeah. Some people, not me.
I mean, I tell it to their face that their brains are not even fully developed yet. The average human brain
It's like
is
mid 20s,
completely done
right?
at like 25. And I'll be
Yeah.
like, you're 12, 13 years old. Like,
Still
man,
cooking.
yeah.
Leave it in the oven. In moments like that, when you are with a kid, what's your favorite G-rated curse word to utter?
I generally do keep myself from using foul language. That's just more of a personal thing. But the one that I've really enjoyed just saying is "son of a beach ball" because it sounds
Son
really close, really close. But they're like,
Son of a beach ball. Oh,
yeah.
that's a great one. That's awesome. All right, well, to use a little bit of profanity, fuck, marry, kill, fork, knife, and spoon.
Huh. Uh, I think I would. I would probably fork the fork, knife the knife, and spoon the spoon. Yeah, there we go. That's how it should be answered.
The best cop out I've ever heard in my life. Uh, Given the opportunity, what's your favorite story to tell?
So I have something called the pot roast story that I back in college I turned into a stand-up act that grossed people out more than I realized. It sounded more like a lot of laughter, maybe from the guys, but the girls were pretty. Um, so I was at a Christian fellowship weekend retreat, and they were having a fun um, like talent show at the end of the weekend, and I decided to tell my Paro story. Back in high school, when I was attending my church's like summer youth camps, we went to one camp that served, oh my gosh, the most delicious pot roast. Um, that the kind that like melts in your mouth, and just the texture and the flavor was just absolutely to die for. And I remember going back for like thirds or fourths. I was one of the last people out of the canteen, like second to my own like camp counselor. And to tell you, this was the final night of the church camp. And um, for those of you who might not be familiar with this, usually the last night of the church camp, the tone shifts to being more serious. There's kind of like an altar call that asks people, hey, like, is this something you want to commit to, like with your faith and your relationship with God? And the whole tone is like really solemn and serious. And for me, the whole time, I was starting to really feel the pot roast come back at me, where I was really feeling it in my stomach. And I was like, I can't leave this right now because everyone else is so serious and I just can't leave. And so,
Yeah.
like, I'm doing my best to hold in as much as I can, to the point where I start like shivering a little bit. So much so that one of my camp counselors is like, oh my gosh, this guy is feeling the spirit. Let me lay hands on him. I'm going to pray for him. And then I'm going to, I'm praying for
Oh
this
no.
kid. But the whole time I'm like shaking because I am barely holding my bowels together. And when it was finally time to break off from the large group and go back to the cabins for a bit, I, you know, went straight for the John, and my goodness, that pot roast came back out like a jacuzzi jet stream. It was oof. Um, yeah,
I just love I just love the image of you just like, come on, only a little bit more. Just, don't raise your hand. Nobody else talking. He goes, somebody's feeling the spirit. And just like, God, no. And then it's you. And it just.
I've had some pretty good
Oh
times
no,
with
it
this.
gets worse. Oh no, it gets even worse or worse.
Yeah. I think one of the lines that I used for that, telling that story as part of that stand-up act, was, it was like Megatron bursting out of the Hoover Dam.
Wow.
It
That
was
is a.
it was like 2012. It was like the height of the Transformers craze. I was
I
trying to be
love it, but
relevant.
it is on point and a lot. Speaking of things that might be a lot, or maybe even a little, what's surprisingly worth the money, or what can people save their money by not purchasing?
Something that is worth the money is a squatty potty, the little stool that you put underneath your feet as you
Staying
go.
on topic. I agree with you for the
It
record.
is a game changer
It
that
is.
now,
It's a
and
banger.
you start to feel it when you're, in a public restroom and you're like, why do my feet feel so low? Oh, that's why I'm not in the comforts of my home, sitting on my squatty potty. But that is definitely one of the best buys you can get yourself. I don't exactly know how much it is, but
Like nothing. I think they're like 10 or $20. They are very cheap, and you need them. I think like they don't have a lifetime guarantee. I don't think, but they might as well because they like you're not gonna wear a squatty potty out. I hope.
they're built to be sturdy for
Factual,
some of
actual.
our sturdy folks.
All right. Well, lastly, before we throw it to our first commercial break, if you could have the listeners of this podcast hear one song of your choosing, which would it be?
As much as I love Taylor Swift, I think the one song that I would I would be best friends with this person if they choose to ever put themselves to listen to this whole thing, is Weird Al Yankovic's "Trapped in the Drive-Thru." It's about 11 minutes long, but um, it's a fantastic parody of R. Kelly's "Trapped in the Closet," which is, to my knowledge, like a 52-part song that continues to snowball more and more chaotically, from, uh, people getting mugged or held at gunpoint to, um, uh, you know, little people running in. I don't know exactly what happened to that. And I never
It's a
watched the full
lot.
thing. Yeah, but the fantastic thing of Weird Al's Trapped in This Drive-Thru is, instead of going the chaotic route, it is the most mundane, banal, like Tuesday night where a man and his partner go get food at a drive-through, and it's like so so funny. And I don't think, if I could, I would perform that thing on stage, but I don't think any karaoke bar or school assembly would ever let me do that. So
All right.
that's please, if you're listening and you have 11 minutes of your time to spare, give Weird Al Trapped in the Drive-Thru a listen.
All right. And with that, we're going to throw it to our sponsors, so please stick around. But hey, if you've got all the doodads you want in your life, why not take a minute and enjoy Trapped in the Drive-Thru by Weird Al Yankovic? Or if you really wanted to hear a song from a previous episode, check out the playlist on Spotify, Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves podcast, Song Rex. It's a long title, I know. Don't worry, there's a link in the description. Either way, see you in a bit. Having trouble staying awake?
Oh, yeah.
Wish you'd followed your dream so you had the give a crap necessary to meet your deadlines?
Oh, definitely.
Are you likely to be fired the second another warm body walks through that door and asks your boss for an application?
Probably.
Would you prefer to keep this shit sack of a job instead of explaining to Susan that you've been fired?
I mean, I guess.
Well, then let me introduce you to caffeine. Caffeine is a highly addictive substance that'll keep you jittery and energized to do any fucking stupid task for hours.
That sounds like drugs.
It is.
Aren't drugs illegal?
Not this one. So next time you feel like sitting on the sidewalk instead of at your desk, reach for a caffeine.
Wait, you didn't tell me where I can buy it.
'Cause it's mother loving everywhere, you blind Neanderthal. Welcome back, everybody. So, Vincent, what's your passion that you brought with you today?
So I mentioned this a lot earlier on the show, but one of the things that I'm very, very passionate about is education, teaching. I've always wanted to be a teacher since I was actually in high school, when I really didn't know what to do, what like major to pick. I just knew that I didn't want to go in as undeclared, um, because I don't know. I feel like picking something was better than nothing, and so I looked around and took a look at my influences, and not my yeah, the people who influenced me, and I really admired my English and my math teachers. Um, so it's kind of a funny story now, because the one teacher who inspired me to pursue English education, he was my sophomore English teacher as well as my AP literature teacher in my senior year, and our journalism advisor. So he made sure we got the school newspaper out on time, and he really made English fun and engaging. I remember he would call on me even if I wasn't ready, but because I felt like I was part of the class and I had something to contribute, eventually I was able to participate and like raise my hand and volunteer and offer more, insightful things. And I also noticed that he would care, like on days when I, fell asleep during class, he would, check in on me. He knew that my faith at the time was very important to me, and though he'll occasionally make some funny remarks, kind of poking at it, he had that kind of rapport, not just with me but with a lot of students. And so I um, took his charisma and his own passion for teaching to heart, and it made me want to pursue education. The funny part of the story is that um, I think it was either last year or the year before, a huge story on Insider came out about how he was having inappropriate relationships with students, and he was caught having said relations with one in like a classroom, and it you know,
Whoa.
it threw me for a kind of existential crisis, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
To hear that like one of my favorite teachers had oh, it's sickening, but also like I wish it had turned out differently. And the way that I remember him, I'm trying to really just take the good parts of it. Um,
Yeah.
and I, in a way, it does motivate me to become a better teacher. Um, and so I would love to share a little bit more about my pathway getting to where I am now.
Yes,
Uh,
please.
so I went to the University of California, Irvine, majoring in English. Halfway through, I picked up a double major in film and media studies because both English and film were in the School of Humanities, and a lot of the classes overlapped. And
Mm-hmm.
so I took a couple like creative writing classes, some screenwriting classes, just because I wanted to um, allow that to be an outlet in case like if I wanted that to be a side gig, so to speak, a side passion in
Mm-hmm.
addition to teaching. And when I returned home from, uh, or sorry, hold on, let me back up a little bit. Uh, in addition to double majoring, I also took a minor in education, and from there, I started learning about different kinds of strategies and ways to engage the younger folk. I started part of my requirements for that minor was to volunteer at an after school program, and um, I was able to interact with children in that way. When I returned home from college, I started working at a summer program slash after school program in my local area at a Christian nonprofit community center that
Where's your
was
local area?
uh, Monterey Park, San Gabriel, California, in the San Gabriel Valley. Um, so this particular community center um, services a lot of immigrant families, mostly Chinese speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so we'll support them with services such as counseling, like tutoring services for students, helping families with their taxes at a affordable rate, especially if a lot of the documents that um, these immigrant families might be receiving are in English, and so we help support with interpretation and translation and things like that. So I was mostly in the family center where we would um, serve families with children and students, and that was where I first started getting to um, work hands-on with students. I wanted to work with older students, and but as time went on, I I found myself really clicking with middle schoolers. Um, a lot of people kind of say you need a special heart to teach middle school, and I'll admit that heart in me is still developing. The way I defend it is that middle schoolers need a lot of love, and I'm still learning the best ways to engage them, meet them where they're at. um, so I was working at that summer program after school for about 7 to 8 years before I was actually able to land my job where I'm at now. um, During that process, I got my teaching credential
Whoop,
at
whoop.
the Cal State Long Beach, and uh, now I'm currently serving out my second year at.
Sorry, he said serving out like it was a sentence.
I realize that now, but it is also a joyful experience too.
You're not selling it that well, my friend.
It's been a long week, and it's only Tuesday. But yeah, I'm currently I've started my second year at Elliott Arts Magnet, which is a arts magnet school and part of the Pasadena Unified School District. We recently received a multi-million-dollar arts grant to
Sick.
really integrate arts, not just in our curriculum, but also on our campus for different kinds of renovations and aesthetic changes. And we're also beginning to build the district's first arts conservatory, kind of as a model to
Sick.
other schools on how arts can be taught, whether it is mariachi or flamenco dancing, costume design, stop motion animation. Um,
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, and so I've been really enjoying working with the students, building those key relationships. Um, and in addition to that, I've also been enjoying just um, mastering my craft, so to speak, on how I teach, whether it's um, the bell to bell rigorous instruction of like, as soon as you walk in the door, this is what is expected of you. We're going to do this. I'm going to show you how to do this. Now you're going to practice this. All right,
Mm.
here's your exit ticket activity. Like before you leave, you got to show me and demonstrate for me that you understand what we were um, learning today. Um, and I've been getting a lot better at it, but it's causing a new kind of stress to make sure that it's not so much of a perfectionism type of thing, but it's like, okay, how much is this actually effective in helping bridge the learning gaps that I see in my students?
Yeah.
And people always see English as such a subjective subject because it is a difficult thing to grade. It's not like math where there's one correct answer, so to speak, and or history or science where it's factual. But a lot of English can be very subjective in terms of how a student writes their essay and things like that. And there's a lot more to grade over time. For example, my students just submitted their final drafts for their realistic fiction narratives, and um, truth be told, I have not started to read them yet because it is quite a daunting task.
Yeah.
But those are the accomplishments that um, I want my students to be proud of, that they made something. Um,
Hell yeah.
and I tell them every day that I am proud of them. Um, Sometimes they look at me kind of weird when I point to them and like, "Hey, I'm proud of you, right?" And they'll be like, "Yes." Make me
Freaking
prouder, please.
weirdo.
I usually say, "Make me prouder." So, you know, there's like on that note, there's a lot of stigma of like when a teacher calls home and phones a parent that
Hmm.
it's usually because they did something wrong, that they're in trouble.
Yep.
So it's like a bad phone call. But I've been trying to work around that stigma and really just highlight the positive aspects. No student is like purely bad, maybe except like
Yeah.
one that I have that like really gets under my skin. But
And you know who you are, Mister or Mrs.
But I really highlight the positive aspects, and I I've never told anything that was untrue. I know some people will be like, "Oh, you just say those things to butter up the parents so they're on your side." No, that's not true. Um, everything I tell the parents about how their child has shown me different, degrees of respect and potential, and has done this and this well, and shown focus. Like those are all true, and I want to be able to highlight those so they feel like too. Like parents also feel like a phone call home is a bad thing. Like, oh, what did my child do today? I'm like,
Mhm.
no, I want to, call home to be like, hey, your child did something amazing, and I wanted to, call it out. Please let them know that I made this phone call so you can, celebrate with them. Um, but like those are those moments that really make me feel like, this is I could not be doing any other job. Not gonna lie, like I was kind of joking that at the beginning of this year, like people were like, "Oh, you're back for another year." Our school has a reputation of being really like, getting into fights and things like that. Like, there's a lot of drama. Um, when here's a little like teacher secret: if you hear a school being described as a Title 1, then it's kind of coded for there's a lot of uh, socio socio-ecologically in like impoverished families, people who are um, experiencing those kinds of disadvantages. But
Mhm.
um, correlated to that, there's also a lot of like behavioral issues that occur with students, whether they're getting into fights or vaping in the middle of class, or stealing each other's phones, whatever it may be. Um, and so, oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. But yeah,
Title 1 scary raw.
people were like, "Oh, you're back again," and I was like, "Yeah, I don't know if it's um, job insecurity or Stockholm syndrome, but I'm back, and I do want to be part of the culture change occurring at our school. I don't. I kind of felt like my first like last year, it felt like there was a rotating cavalry of is that the phrase, rotating cavalry of teachers coming
Cavalcade.
in, cavalcade. What did I say, cavalry?
Cavalry. You were
Yeah.
really close phonetically.
Baklava, right?
He brought it back.
uh there was a rotating cavalcade of teachers coming into the school and then leaving after not being able to put up with the students, and I was just like, I don't want to be that teacher who comes one year and like leaves, and then all the kids are like, oh yeah, we scared this teacher away, we
Yeah.
broke them or whatever, and I'm like, no, I want to be the one who sticks it out. And this
I mean, and
second
not only
year,
that, it sounds like you're enjoying what you're doing and you're enjoying the progress that you're making too, which is, as someone who has been the person who left, uh, tidbit for those who don't know, including I'm imagining Vincent here, is I was last year around this time, I was working at a charter school as a long term sub, and I was basically stuck in a math room, which is a subject I do excel at, especially at that level. I mean, it's junior high. Uh, but I could not. And I respect those that can, that yourself and the teachers that I worked alongside. But I literally was having panic attacks on the way to work. I could not function. And so I think the fact that you're able to stick it out, and it isn't, from the way you're describing it, doesn't sound like, it sounds like the difficulty of a job, not the difficulty of withstanding something, which in my experience very different. So
hmm,
I think that is, but I do think that is a distinction and something that should, if not if you haven't already found that ease, I think should give you that ease to know that you're in the right place doing the right thing. When you are, going to work, you're wanting to make a difference, you're proud of the kids, and you're interacting with them positively. I do think that is, I think you're doing what you're setting out to do. And it's lovely.
the sign that I was in the right place, I am in the right place, was at the beginning of this year when my students last year, my first batch of seventh graders, now eighth graders, would say hi to me in the hallway.
Yeah.
That was like a moment where it's like, oh, this feels good. Granted, I did over the summer forget some of your guys' names. So if I didn't say your name and I just said hello, hello, that is a signal that I momentarily forgot your name. But after checking the yearbook, I'm okay right now. But yeah, that was kind of a sign to me. It's like, oh, I made some kind of impact that they would still say hi to me, and I'm making an effort to still say hi with and calling them out by name. Just like knowing a student's name um, makes a huge world of difference for them, and that was something I always set out to do to make sure that I pronounce it correctly. I call them by the name that they prefer to be called. Use their pronouns, etc., and make them feel seen and belonging.
Yeah.
So that's I'm going to continue teaching as best as I can. I know I'm not a perfect human being. There's still a lot for me to learn. But even when I talk to the veteran teachers who've been at this game for 20, 30 years, they'll share with me how they didn't know jack squat those first 5 years of teaching.
Yeah.
And, coming up with everything from scratch. I'm um, I'm really happy that at this particular school, I do feel supported by the staff and admin, and they see where I'm coming from. They see what I'm doing well, what I need extra support in, um, and from keeping me from feeling overwhelmed, especially when there's a lot going on. We're currently in a transition period where we are looking for a new principal,
Oh, that's fun.
and that can create a lot of disjointedness and unsettling. We can we I can definitely feel the students kind of unraveling when there's no head at the helm, and we're all doing our best to um, hold the fort and work with each student where they're at. But I think for I think collectively they, or at least unconsciously, they might be feeling, oh, there's no principal.
Yeah.
Let's see how much we can get away with.
Yeah. Push the limit of the envelope to be sure. So, for those that don't know, because there are many that don't, like the kids kind of not understanding, what it takes to grade a paper and understanding our circumstance as educators, I'm curious if you could give a people a taste, just walk them through a day in the life of a teacher. Just like when you get up, what you're going through, when you get to go to bed, like how much of your life this is.
Oh my gosh. Um, so in a way that may or may not be healthy, I spend a lot of time at school and doing school related things. Um, I uh, get up usually so I can arrive to school maybe like 10 or 15 minutes before my contracted hours, um, just so I can do some last minute prep, whether it's tidying up my Google Slides for the day, making extra copies, changing the things that I have on my whiteboard. Um, and then I have 5 periods of seventh grade English, and they it's all the same. So, and I do try to make sure that each day I am teaching the same lesson so that the classes stay in sync. But I am teaching the exact same lesson with like slight differentiations, slight changes depending on the class. But it is the exact same lesson 5 times a day. which can be a little exhausting, especially when I get to the fifth or sixth one. And I do have to like, I do my best to try to tailor it to that particular class. Every class is different, bunch of different personalities, different number of students, different energy levels, um, reading levels, things like that. Um, and then I mentioned how our school is building an arts conservatory. So we've changed the bell schedule so that at the end of each day, there is like a period 7 or an advisory class where every student on campus gets a taste of the arts. So
Aw.
it'll be like it's like a 30-minute class where I mentioned some of the examples like stop motion animation,
Yeah.
mariachi, um, drama, and things like that. So the class that I partner up with a art specialist, which is the arts teacher on campus who does like graphic and visual design. Um, and so we co-teach a sketchbook class, and it is probably the best thing to end each day with, when there is chaos in the hallways, disrespect and disruption within my own classes. I can walk across campus, enter our art teacher's classroom, and he has set up everything so that it is a calm and meditative space where everyone can just free draw, paint, sketch, collage into their personal sketchbooks. We got soft music playing, and everyone knows what they got to do, and it's such a relaxing way to end the day. And honestly, I don't even have to do a whole lot. He's been at this teaching game for like 21 years, and so he's um, has his own form of classroom management, and the students have come to respect him on that, and I admire a lot of it. And I've tried to copy some of his teaching moves, so much so that some of the students like, hey, that's what Mr. Moya does.
You caught me.
Yeah, I'll be like, yeah, you're right, because I'm trying to learn from the pros. Um,
So we finished that up, and then what? How much longer? Like, what other things do you need to do before you are heading back to the car and headed home?
so the school day officially ends at 3 o'clock. My contractual hours are until like 3:20. I usually find myself leaving campus around 6. Which is
Wow.
very
How
very
often
late.
are you the last one, like the last car in the parking lot?
Sometimes I have to dummy lock the gate because I don't have a key to the staff parking lot. And I just like, okay, I'm just gonna hope no one breaks into the school when I do that. But yeah, there have been some nights where I'm just like, I am the last one. But I try to make it out there at least by 6, and that's usually when the after school program ends and the final kids are being picked up. So I'm like, okay, at least I'm not like the single person on campus.
All right, so
Um,
we're starting the day at
uh,
we're first getting there at
7:45.
7:45. We are leaving at 6, so we're pushing up against 10 hours. A little bit
Yeah.
over, actually.
So the 3 hours that I stay after school is a combination of planning and grading, uh, finishing the other half of my lunch that I didn't eat, um, and while doing so, maybe watching some TV, because I've granted myself some allowance that if I'm eating, I can just take a break for a little bit. I don't have to be working and eating at the same time.
Yeah.
But
And for those of you at home who are like, wow, this guy sounds like he's doing it to himself, everybody else has gone home. A lot of the people that have gone home are just doing what he's doing at home. As someone who grew up with a mother who is a teacher, as someone who's had lots of friends who are teachers, occasional roommates who are teachers, a lot of them just take it home instead of staying at work and doing it there.
yeah,
So this
I
is
I can't work at
not
home.
uncommon.
I literally
Yeah.
cannot work at home. I live with my parents, and just the way that things are organized at home. I can't find myself to focus very well, and so
No,
I
I mean,
yeah.
that's a common paradigm. I feel like, and I feel like it's relatively recent. Like I've heard of people who work at home having trouble working at home to the point where they literally make a space where they work, so to like change the dynamic, because that is such a thing. The idea of having like spatial differences of like activities is like a very real thing. So it's smart to play around it, my guy.
Yeah. And I allow myself to do this because I often have some kind of event going on in the evening in the area, whether it's a 7 p.m. draft at my local game store or my church small group. Like, for me, it doesn't really make sense to drive half an hour back home just to get back up and go out the door again. So I often don't come home until like 10 or 11 on those nights where I'm out.
Yeah, that's and then you're back up at work at 7:45.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's you're starting to you're starting to bring into my question for your health, sir. So there's a lot of times that teachers are shown in film, whether it be movies or television. Are there depictions that stand out as being correct, or like more, kind of respectful of the craft and of the occupation, versus ones that perhaps aren't?
Um so I guess I'll start with depictions that I feel like do not make sense to me.
I'm here for it.
um I hate those scenes where it's school and the teacher is teaching and in the middle of a like lecture, and then all of a sudden the bell rings and they're like, don't forget to do this, this, and this. When I've been trained to be like, direct instructional time is supposed to be at like the first 20 minutes of class. So if you are lecturing at the end of your class period, you're not effectively engaging them. They're not getting to practice or demonstrate the, skills and standards they're supposed to be learning. Like, why are you doing that? So like every time they're in the middle of some grand lecture about some topic or whatever, and then all of a sudden bell rings. I'm like, what are you doing? That's not effective instruction. But oh man, there was a movie that I remember seeing. Oh my gosh, what was it called? Um, the main teacher character that we were following, thick glasses, slightly balding with a comb over, Latino, was wanting to
St-
teach like AP calculus or something.
Stand and Deliver.
Yes.
I think
And that
that's the
was
one you're
like
talking about.
that was one of the movies that like really stood out to me as like,
Yeah,
yeah,
though
like
with it's Edward James Olmos is kind of like big movie. It's
mhm.
actually set in LA, I think. I think
Yeah,
it's where it's
I think it
supposed to
was, yeah.
be, and I feel like I've literally seen tributes and like murals for the real life teacher who was the inspiration for that.
Yeah, and so sure, the Hollywood depiction of that kind of teacher with that kind of like charisma like is few and far between in the educational system. But when we see that, it is, inspirational, especially when he's placed in front of the backdrop of all the other jaded teachers with what we call a deficit mindset. They often say things like, "Oh, my students can't read, my students can't write, and
Mm-hmm.
they can't do this and can't do that." And those are, I'll be honest, some of the most discouraging statements to hear in my field of work, because it's coming from, again, that like deficit mindset that our students are lacking, when in fact they do have skills, they do have strengths and um, areas that they're really good in, and different kinds of like intelligences and passions and interests and like arts and talents, but we don't always get to see them in specific contexts. And so it's our job as educators to really bring those out, you know, dive really deep into, the caverns of their world, and really bring out um, what they can do.
All right, so I'm gonna. You brought up a very interesting thing, and I love the way it sounds, but I'm curious at the applicability. So when you say deficit mindset, I feel like I understand it, but I probably don't. Which is the idea that kind of focus on the good, don't make the bad prominent. However, as educators, how are you supposed to talk or deal with the issue if somebody is, if they are in junior high but they are reading at a second grade level? How do you discuss that without using the deficit mindset? Like, how are you supposed to? Because it's almost impossible to realistically solve a problem if it is not known and discussed, right?
Yeah, there's a it's one thing to talk about students, like they can't do this, they can't do that, but
Mm-hmm.
it's another thing to be realistic and looking at the data uh, honestly. And so I will admit that a lot of my students are reading 2 or even 3 or more grade levels below.
Mm-hmm.
And, it can be a little discouraging to see that. Um, but at the same time, it's like, okay, what can I do? How can my colleagues and I work together to and figure out some strategies to help alleviate or really target these areas that we want our students to grow in. And so I personally don't like saying, oh, they can't read, they can't write, but yeah, it's um, having to teach the same 5 lessons across or the same lesson across 5 classes, um, without like I don't teach an honors class or anything like that, and just seeing the disparity of like reading and writing levels um, throughout my classes, it's um, definitely one of my biggest challenges on how much time and energy I can spend for each of my students if I'm aiming to help them like get on grade level, because what
Yeah.
that's the kind of work that I need them to be doing, and that's the kind of content that I'm going to be teaching at. I can't dumb it down, like so to speak, um, for them, but I will. We use the phrase differentiated instruction. It basically means we're going to um, change the approach of how our students can access the curriculum, access the content um, for these particular students. So that might mean a little extra one-on-one time with these students, or
Mm.
um, or it'll be the way that I allow them to um, like submit work. Some of them might want to do a Google Slides presentation. Some of them might want to do like a trifold project or something, or some of them might want to like record a video, and that actually allows students to not only engage the content, but also do it in a way that they feel like they have autonomy and can actually showcase those areas that they are actually good at.
Thank you. That was wow. All right. Well, if you care to, want to blow any other more misconceptions about teaching that more people, myself perhaps even included, hold?
Um, it's certainly a tough job. I definitely have to stop and recognize like where I'm getting my validation from. I I like for me as like a recovering people pleaser, I have to recognize that do not, I should not get my validation from my students. Like at the end of the day, they're not my friends. Like I don't need their acceptance. I don't need them to
Yeah.
like me. Like I know I need to build relationships. I know I need to make connections, you know, and it helps for me to share their interests, you know, watch the movies that they watch or things like that. But um at the end of the day, I have my own friend groups, you know. I um I have my own hobbies and I can seek joy in those. I am allowed to have a life outside of teaching, even though I spend like 10, 11 hours on campus. um, and I allow myself to do that um, so that I can come back uh, refreshed each day.
Nice. Well, on the flip reverse of that, what would you say is your favorite non-obvious aspect of teaching that people don't know about that you just revel in?
Um, I actually like the times when I can work with other teachers. Like, I kind of enjoy staff meetings. Well,
What is it about
only,
staff meetings that you find so rewarding?
well, for one, I'm among peers. I'm not the only adult in the room in charge of, you know, 20 to 30 prepubescent gremlins. Uh, but it's good to see my colleagues, especially the ones who are like similar to my age or are still kind of new to education. Like we got a couple like first year teachers too, and I can empathize a lot with them.
Those
Um,
scrubs.
I'm still kind of a scrub.
No, I know. That was the joke.
Yeah. And so like I enjoy being in those meetings because it's an opportunity for us to collaborate, for team building, um, for all of us to get to all the same page. Um, and so as long as those meetings are run efficiently, as long as like we share all the relevant information and are, you know, can get out of there on time, like I do enjoy those staff meetings.
All right. To go from the beautiful to balderdash, Vincent, what is your preposterous peeve?
Oh, I've got so many. I mean, a lot of the things that my students do will peeve me, but I don't really know. I don't want to talk about them anymore. They already take up so much
They
of my
can
mind
sit
space.
out in the hall.
The one that I've noticed that's been really grinding my gears lately is as I mentioned, I'm a level one magic judge and tournament organizer at a local game store. And so whenever I go to another game store that's not the one that I work at, um, and I notice a
Because that
way
one's
that
perfect.
oh, I'll talk about that later. Whenever I go to another game store and I play their event just as a regular competitor, and I notice a certain way they do things, whether it's like um, announcing time in the round or how they input draws or oh no, there's not a judge on hand or things like that. I have to remind myself. I've started like vocalizing just like a little quietly to myself, just like this is not my store. This is not my store. This is not my store. Don't complain. Like this is just how they're gonna run it. If this is how they're gonna run it, just let them run it this way. Like and I find myself kind of like talking to the TOs on the side, like, hey, you know, I'm an L1 judge, so if you need any help, yeah, if you're gonna put in an intentional draw, make sure it's 0-0-3, not just 1-1-1 or anything like that, because that'll screw up with tiebreakers. Um, and I found myself just, you know, um, providing some free judge consultations in case, I go to an event where there's no other judge. I'd be like, hey, yeah, you want to make sure this event's run like this, and I really can't help myself. But there was a point where it's like, oh, they're letting everyone sit down randomly for the deck building portion. They're not like sorting us alphabetically or whatever. I'll say that. So I'll like vocalize my complaint, and then one of my
Yeah.
friends would be like, "Stop it! You're complaining too much." I feel like I've given him the right to be like, "Hey, call me out if you find myself complaining too much," because it's not my store. It's not my store. But to the other point, yes, there's a lot of things at my local game store that I wish were very different.
Oh, dude,
But
buddy, I was being sarcastic.
I mean, I have enjoyed my time there, and I'm going to continue my time there because I love the community that I built. But
Yeah, it's a game store. You're gonna build it. It's gonna get better. Everything's,
yeah,
like I don't know. It just like the kids at your school. It takes time, and you got to mold it. You got to mold that clay carefully. It's all good. But
yeah,
back to your peeve.
yeah. Like,
When did you? Do you have any? Okay, first off, when did you notice this becoming an issue for you? Is this something that only after becoming a judge really started to like? You started like seeing the signs. Like once you put on that judge shirt, you could never unsee these pitfalls, or was it even before that this started to like really raise your ire?
well, the truth of the matter is that I only really started um, really attending local game store events within the last couple years. So after I started like regularly going to my local game store and then starting to work um, running their events, um, and then I find myself getting more and more involved playing Magic competitively, and I started going to regional championship qualifiers and other competitive REL events, and it was really within this time range that I started noticing that like I would complain a lot, and it's I didn't like that about
Mm-hmm.
myself, and so I started trying to make changes of like telling a friend, hey, if you hear me complaining, please call me out because I don't want to be that kind of person. I think we we like to say that Magic players love to complain, and I'm
Some
part of
things
that
are just
category.
true.
I'm part of that category. So I want to be part of the positive shift in the community. So if something's not quite right, if an event's not run the way I feel like it should be, you know, I can offer my 2 cents to the TOs. But if they don't take the feedback, that's not
It's on them.
on me. That's not
Yeah.
on me.
So, do you have a story perhaps where we could really just understand your rage in moments such as these? Perhaps one where you had to leave, or one where you're just like, "Nope, can't tell them that. I am, this is getting me too much. I need to write it down on this very strongly worded letter."
One of the most recent experiences that I had where I really had to just like constantly say, "This is not my store. This is not my store. This is not my store," was when I was attending a limited RCQ in at another store where they usually limited tournaments would have a sealed deck building portion for the Swiss rounds, and the top 8 portion would have a booster draft. So those are two separate like formats dealing with booster packs. But when they first, seated us at the tables, they're like, okay, for the Swiss, we're gonna have a sealed deck. You're gonna get 6 boosters. You're gonna open them, build your deck. For the top 8, there will be no draft. You're gonna play with your sealed decks, and the entire room was in shock because the expectation for any kind of limited tournament would be sealed for Swiss, draft for top 8. and all of us were like, this can't be happening. And for me, I was like, because I've already started practicing my little under the breath mantra of not my store, not my store, not my store. I was like trying to roll with it. I was like, this is not great, but it's gonna be what it is. But enough people at the store um expressed their concerns and their complaints loud enough that the owner was like, okay, if you guys want to draft for top 8, then those boosters will come out of your
Oh,
pricing.
prize pool, yeah.
And I was like, in my head, I was like, that should not even be a compromise. That shouldn't even be a thing. And we all looked at the advert. It's like, I guess they didn't actually specify top 8 draft, but like, that's super ambiguous and not at all what most people are expecting. And so for me, like, I feel like after that event, that store lost me as a customer. And that particular store, I think those of us, those people in my circle of friends and community who know which store I'm talking about, they have a lot of like other questionable practices, such as posting the start time as their quote unquote registration time, and then the actual start of the event is an hour later, which makes no sense, but we roll with it.
Hold on. So let me understand. They say the start time is 10 when the actual start time is 11 and the registration time is 10.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't want to be that guy, but that one actually makes a lot of sense. Magic players are late as shit. So just like building in a buffer so that it actually starts when you want it to start. It is a bit two-faced or underhanded or like kind of shady, but it is for a good reason. That one I've seen before. I think it's not ideal, but also you're dealing with the most not ideal person for like customer base. So
I mean, I don't want to like show up an hour early to an event.
Oh, I agree, but you're the outlier. So much of, like, every time that you're at a tournament and they go, hey, some people called in, there's an accident on the highway. No, there fucking isn't. There's no accident. They just left the house late. Like every single tournament I've been at where it's like, oh, there's an accident, or but if you go up to NorCal, it's even funnier because they'll be like, yeah, some people are running late, so we're going to postpone the start of the tournament. That's the reason they're doing it, is so that their tournament actually starts when they want it to. The reality of the situation is they should just know that and like plan accordingly and not like kind of be so subversive in that way. But, tomato, potato. Either which way, with that grin upon my face, we're going to head to our second ad break, but don't go anywhere, because when we get back, Vincent is going to enter the lightning round. Ooh. This podcast is sponsored by Rational Puppets. One of the easiest things you can do with your hands and a light source in a dark room. Over human history, millions of people have used Rational Puppets to great enjoyment. With limitless possibility and no upfront costs, Rational Puppets will have your hands busy forever. Or until the power comes back on. So what are you waiting for? The power to go out? Oh yeah, right. Okay. Well, but when it does, we'll see you and your Rational Puppets on the wall. And we're back. Vincent, are you ready to enter lightning round? The lightning round.
Ready, mom spaghetti.
All right, put however much time it takes to bake that cookie on the clock. Vincent, is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
Probably not. I don't think I'd have any clue of what I want to do if I wasn't teaching.
Make the food or do the dishes?
Make food. Definitely make food.
Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
Once I took a sneak peek at my Chinese textbook in high school, and then I immediately put it back.
Pineapple on pizza or fist fight?
Wait, what?
Pineapple on pizza or fist fight?
Pineapple on pizza? That doesn't sound like a bad thing.
You're having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
Uh, by the rules of poetic irony, definitely something bad's gonna happen.
Is professional wrestling cool or lame?
It takes a lot to be able to follow a script. I would say it's cool.
Do you create your own thoughts or do you just listen to them?
Yes. Yes.
Album, shuffle, or playlist?
I am a um, Spotify premium non-truther. I know that if I try the free trial, I'll never go back. So shuffle, hard shuffle. Put everything I own in my library on shuffle.
Is there such a thing as a perfect piece of art?
No, something good art is always constantly changing.
Have you ever had a crush on a cartoon character?
Starfire from Teen Titans.
Are you out of touch or is it the children who are wrong?
Definitely the children.
What is more important, freedom or structure?
Structure. Yeah, it's structure.
Would you rather have tentacle arms or kangaroo legs?
Tentacle arms, as long as I also get the suction cups too.
Human in a world of Muppets or Muppet in a world of humans?
Human in a world of Muppets. I think I would stand out for sure, but at least I would know I'm still me.
Would you rather meet an alien or a ghost?
I would want to meet a ghost. Yes.
Are hot dogs tacos?
Oh, this is not a good. This is not a good question for this. Yes, hot dogs are tacos.
Skydiving or deep sea diving?
Skydiving. At least I'm going down faster.
Subbed or dubbed?
Subbed for sure, even though my eyes will be glued on those words at the bottom of the screen.
Do you believe? Wow. Do you read in the bathroom?
On my phone, clues to the New York Times crossword puzzles.
Would you rather be stranded in the desert or at sea?
At sea, so at least I have the illusion that I have water.
Would you rather have your fries cost triple or they always come out cold and soggy?
I will pay the premium. Don't give me the soggy crud.
Do you pee in the shower?
Of course, it all goes down the same drain.
Is there such a thing as karma?
I would believe not, but I do like to laugh in the face of it, and sometimes it comes back to bite me.
Would you rather live in a world without music or world without holidays?
Those two go hand in hand. This is not a fair question. Holidays, I guess.
Could you eat 37 of your favorite food for $5,000 in a 1 hour time limit?
1 hour? Depends on how large those barbecue pork buns are, but probably.
Well, congratulations. You've survived the lightning round. Woo!
Yay, yay, yay.
Now, as a reward, my gallant guest, I grant thee a lightning round question of your own to be echoed until we get bored of it. What you got?
This is the one that I've been asking my students. Would you rather eat chocolate flavored poop or poop flavored chocolate?
So if I had to give an immediate answer, I would say poop flavored chocolate. But if I got to ask if I got to ask a question, I would potentially change my answer. So if I could ask and figure out like whose poop and or how toxic it would be to me, that changes things. Because if I find out it's not, wait, no, poop's not like pee where if you eat your own it doesn't like hurt you, right? think it's just like breakfast is breakfast in that regard. But if it was like, if I could find out it was sterile, or if it was from an animal where that wouldn't, like, it wouldn't hurt me, like give me like internal distress, I would actually rather have chocolate flavored poop.
Interesting.
It's all about the way it
So
tastes, man.
usually the way that I phrase this question, it's that it is safe. Both are safe to
Both
eat.
are okay.
Like it won't kill you.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, then I'll have just chocolate flavored poop.
it's more of like a psychological kind of thing.
Yeah.
I've chosen to abstain my answer because I think it's more funny to see my students squirm and giggle when I ask them this question.
Am I now
And
a student, or are you gonna give us the goods?
I've heard of some cuisines where they've been able to take like fecal matter and make it digestible. Um, but I think at the end of the day, psychologically, I don't think I can live with the fact
Knowingly
that
eat poop.
I ate poop. So I will go with the poop flavored chocolate, even though it's gonna be
Way
pretty
worse.
nasty.
You're gonna. It's like it's such a like a pyrrhic moral victory to be like, oh well, at least I didn't eat shit. It's like, yeah, but you ate something that tasted way worse.
Yeah.
Summation: I win. You're a dork. All right, coming to
Yeah.
coming to a closer. Anything you want to plug? Shout outs you'd like to give? Places people can find you, content, or awesome school things.
Well, I want to thank my school, Elliott Arts Magnet.
Whoop, whoop.
Go Huskies. I'm very proud of all of my students, past and present.
Yay.
So if you happen to be listening to this, know that I am 100% proud of you, even if you sometimes get on my nerves. But other than that, I'm not really on social media for my own sanity's sake. But if you ever happen to visit the San Gabriel Valley, try some soup dumplings or some really good boba, maybe you'll come across me somewhere.
I'll take it from here past me. Thanks, Vincent, for being my guest today, and a special thanks to my editor, Richard Ashford, and my composer, Joshua Gibbons. And thank you, yes, you, listening at home, wherever you found time to appreciate this. Time is the most precious commodity we have, and I really do appreciate you spending yours with us. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, or just share it with a friend. Every little bit helps. Or if you already have and are out of episodes to listen to, don't worry. We put out a new episode every Monday at midnight on SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes at Passionate People Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And a very special thanks are due to our patrons. Isabella Yellow. If you'd like to join said illustrious ranks and have your name read aloud, just head on over to patreon.com/Passionate People Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And do remember, folks, if days are numbered and songs are sung, at the end of the day, I think we've all won. So please do stick around, because great things have only just begun.